I just got done watching Deadpool and Wolverine twice. Why did I watch it twice? Well, because after the first time I watched it, I decided, you know what? I cannot review this movie the way that I'm thinking right now. Let me watch it again so I can confirm my thoughts. Not that I was particularly hyped for this movie, it's just when you're going with people that buy crap around you, you feel just as enthusiastic about buying the same crap. So now I have this, and I have the Dune one as well. And now I don't know what to do with this one because I don't see myself, and now I have it. It's a thing that will sit and collect dust, but it was part of the experience. But one thing that I did get that I know that I will use and continue to use is this awesome cup. Only at AMC. They had Deadpool ones too. Spent way too much money on this stuff. And I had AMC credit that they didn't let me use because I guess Disney, but this cup is awesome. So anyway, going into this, based off the trailers, I thought it looked good-ish. And honestly, now that I've seen it, a lot of people said, oh, most of the stuff in the trailers within the first 35 minutes. And now having seen the film, I would say don't listen to that because it's not like the last two acts feel like a different movie than that first act, and a lot of that footage is shown in the trailer. In fact, I would say it's not really first 35 minutes is shown in the trailer. I would say it's more like 60% of the trailer. At least now looking back, what feels like 60% of the trailer was from the first 35 minutes. So most of the footage, but I wouldn't say all of it because there's still quite a few shots in the trailer that feel like they were in the last 2/3. So that feels like it was a great exaggeration to get people butts in seats to see what happens within the last two acts, because I thought maybe it'd be like this Jurassic difference. Yeah, so John Levy directed this movie. I think he's a decent director. I really love his Stranger Things episodes, and his movies have been pretty hit or miss. I didn't care for Adam Project, but I enjoy some of his other movies. They're not like particularly like amazing movies, but they are crowd pleasers, and so I expected he would do a competent job with this movie. I was getting excited based off of the on-set pictures. They were filming a lot of the stuff on location. In complete honesty, looking at the end result, I would have never guessed that it was filmed on location, because at the end of the day, as much as I hate to say this, this still feels like a Marvel product with the Deadpool spirit. And so to a lot of people, if they miss Deadpool and they love Deadpool, if you love Deadpool, you're going to love this movie. If you are afraid of what Marvel would do to a Deadpool, like I said, it's Deadpool by spirit. It does not feel Disneyfied beyond the fact where it makes fun of itself. That is definitely the biggest praise I can give this movie. The fact that it doesn't feel filtered still and still has some incredibly awesome blood and guts. This movie has a plethora of action sequences. I enjoyed most of them. I think Deadpool 2 has the best action of the three Deadpool films, but I will say there are many moments in the action that are some of the best moments of the Deadpool films. So when I say, action is better in Deadpool 2, I'm strictly talking about choreography and how it looks to me. Even though this has the coolest concepts and some of the coolest ideas in a Deadpool film, there's many moments where I was smiling so wide and so happy to see just pure superhero eye candy that you get in the fan service of this film. I'm not just talking about the cameos. In fact, I didn't really give a crap about cameos. And that's one thing, if you were concerned about, oh, this is just going to be a cameo fest, at moments it teeters into that. It never feels like it overtakes the film. I will say the movie tries to lean into its cameos by embracing them into the themes of the film. The way I kind of felt about that is that it felt like the themes were half-baked, and so it felt like they used that as an excuse, as almost as a cover-up job, but at the same time, it was still fun. You know, I don't think it's a movie you're supposed to think too much while watching, and that's where I was most torn, because the way I'm going to put my stance on this film is that it is the most entertaining bad movie you will ever watch. A lot of critics might say, oh, that's stupid. If it's, oh, you're saying it's a bad movie, so, but it's also entertaining. A lot of people question that, and I kind of did too when I first saw reviews that were kind of saying something like that. If you care about plot, why are you watching this? At first, I was in that boat of like, what do you mean? But now I kind of get it now that I've seen the film. It's mindlessly entertaining. It flies by. The best thing about this movie is actually the pacing. This movie goes by so fast and it does not waste a single second. But sometimes that's the issue, because this movie tries to use Wolverine as the heart of the film. When they try to actually do something with it, it feels melodramatic or rushed because of this film's non-stop edit and feel. Maybe this movie could have used another 10 minutes or 15 minutes to really feel like we understand our characters a little bit more, but at the end of the day, their arcs were executed just fine. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, he doesn't have a huge arc here. You really can't give a character like that a huge arc without fundamentally changing who he is, and so that's why I guess Wolverine's in this one. But like I said, this isn't our Wolverine. This isn't Logan. We're doing a lot of talking about his past, and a lot of it comes off as a little melodramatic. Like I said, the action is really fun here, and even though it's not the best action of the three. There's two action sequences in this movie that I absolutely loved, but that's where another part of my issue comes in, where I say this movie really isn't like good. The two action sequences I really loved in this movie, take them out, the movie's the same. There's like absolutely no point to them, but they are still relentlessly fun. I just wish that this movie was thought out a little bit better, because I wish I don't have to sit here and turn off my brain to watch this movie. And I understand that it's a Deadpool and Wolverine comic book movie. Yes, you should do that. Comic book media has proven itself that you can make more than just a silly comedy with a Deadpool film. We saw it in the first two Deadpool films. I am someone who actually prefers Deadpool 2 to Deadpool 1, and I think that movie infused its heart into its story. While here it feels like there's a detach. It feels like there's TVA storyline, that's the main plot, and then we have our characters going through stuff on the side, which is fine. It just didn't, it felt like there was a disconnect. I just wish that the whole movie felt like it was complementing itself a little bit better, besides just putting our characters through the notions of a Marvel film. The first time around when I watched this movie, I was actually thinking to myself, a lot of the plot didn't make sense because of the crowd that I was with. Of course, when you're going to the very first showing of the movie, you're gonna have quite a loud crowd when certain moments happen. But I'll say my crowd was maybe a little over the top, because there was points when I was on my rewatch of it, things were making more sense to the plot because people weren't laughing or shouting through important things, or something distracting me going on. And I was actually able to focus a little bit more, because the second time around, the story's still kind of silly, but it wasn't as silly the second time I watched it, even though there was still quite a few plot holes, but that's to be expected with multiverse films at this point. Like I said, this is quite an interesting movie, because with a lot of critics, you have to try and find that middle ground, or that fine line between what's a good movie and what entertains you. And usually with most movie critics, that's something that goes hand in hand. You know, why would you be entertained by something that's not of substance? That's where you have to draw that line between, are you a fan versus are you a critic? There are a lot of movies that I saw this year that were better than this, but I'm gonna tell you for sure, I'm gonna be watching this movie a lot for very specific reasons that are beyond film criticism, because the fan in me that's been watching these movies since before I could talk just went ecstatic at many moments at this time. Part of me is also very disappointed that it wasn't in a better film. That's where that tug of war inside of me is going on. Like, at the end of the day, I'm happy I saw this in a packed theater with a crowd that was absolutely loving it. I'm happy that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman had absolute blast making this movie, as well as Sean Levy. I had a blast watching some of these sequences, even though they were kind of just lightly stitched together by plot MacGuffin stuff. And also, the villains in this movie, almost forgot about them. That's all I gotta say for this review. It's the Marvel villains. They are very Marvelized, kind of, you're gonna forget them next week type of villains, but at the same time, you know, what do you expect at this point? Of the three Deadpool films, I would say this is definitely the worst of the three, but like I said, the entertainment value is so high on this film. I would watch this movie over Deadpool 1. I would say I enjoyed Deadpool 2 more. Also, one thing I do want to point out, I hope the Marvel fans don't get hyperbolic this weekend and say, oh, this is the best movie since Endgame. It's not. It's not. I can name you actually quite a few movies that MCU has released since Endgame that I think is better than this. Just because it has a lot of fan service that works better than in other films doesn't make it a better movie. And that's where the disconnect is going to be between fans and critics. Just because they handled certain cameos better doesn't mean it's a better film. Yes, this movie handled cameos better than Multiverse of Madness, but I think Multiverse of Madness is a better movie, even though this movie did that better. So there's gonna be a lot of arguing on Twitter and stuff this weekend, because there's a lot of people on Twitter are gonna saying that this is killing cinema. There's gonna be a lot of people who are saying, what's the big deal? That people are having fun. I'm right in the middle of that. This is the longest review I've done in a long time. I need to shut up. I'm gonna give Deadpool and Wolverine a 6.7 out of 10. I had a blast. My entertainment of this movie was an 8 out of 10, even though I would say this is about a 4 out of 10 movie. Comment down below what you guys thought. Like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.